Good stuff there. All right, John. Good breakdown. With 12 practices in and a preseason game. Now we have a lot here on the horizon this week with joint practices with New England. Who are these most important for, John? I think I'd like to say the offensive players, but it feels as though Sean Mannion's going to have to eventually take steps forward. Now, I don't know if he's going to get the reps he needs in a practice environment. That's more for players. How do you see this upcoming week versus New England and joint practices? And who do you think it's most beneficial for if they take advantage of it?
Well, definitely the offense. Definitely Sean Mannion, because he's the one who needs the reps, so to speak. He's the one who has to get up to speed as far as doing his job. And, let's be honest, Vic could do this shit in his sleep. So, the defense is it seems like we give him a pass, but it's not that I give him a pass. I don't like the way Rick Woolen's playing. I haven't talked about that enough. But now I see why he got the contract he got. I don't agree with. I don't think Michael Carter. I think Michael Carter's one of your better. Michael Carter's a better football player than Marcus Epps. Flat out. I don't like the mentality. Oh, well, he's the backup nickel. He's the dime back, which you rarely use, and he would be a backup safety. I love that versatility, but at the end of the day, he's a better safety than Marcus Epps. Let him play. But these are little things compared to the offense. My disagreements. So I'm not giving him a pass. There's some issues over there. But compared to the offense, you can't. There are so many things you got to fix on that offense. You can't even get to the defense. If you're Nick Sirianni, you're plugging holes. And ultimately, look, we normalize this hire, and it seems like I'm picking on Sean Mannion, but I'm not. This was from where they started and where they ended. This hire got normalized very, very quickly. And by that, I mean, they went into the process thinking we need a veteran guy. They wanted a former head coach, a veteran guy with significant experience play calling coming off Kevin Patullo, who had no experience play calling. That's where they started. And they wanted Mike McDaniel, then it was Brian Daboll, and so on. And then that's where they ended, because those guys wanted to go different spots for whatever reason. Maybe, in the case of Daboll, maybe he just didn't want the pressure because he picked a questionable spot, but he's also friends with the head coach. So all kinds of things can factor into decisions like that. And where they ended up with a guy with less experience than the guy they got rid of, to the point, and the box stuff bothers me probably more than it should, because just from listening to Sean, and I don't know if anybody heard him yesterday, but he got asked about calling plays from the field or the booth. And he said it was smooth. I felt comfortable. I thought our staff did a great job. The communication was clear. We didn't have any substitution issues. We didn't have any play calls get jacked up where we got caught with them substituting late or anything like that. I thought the lines of communication were clear. I was happy with how the quarterbacks were able to get us in and out of the huddle. We weren't really against the play clock at all. I was happy with that. And for the most part, you say, really, you're happy with everything? Well, the operation was pretty smooth. And then I'm planning on calling the next game from the booth, as Ross said on the broadcast. So he confirmed that. It's an opportunity to get a feel for both and then go from there. That's been the plan all along, and I think it will be an interesting perspective. But I think through this preseason, an opportunity to kind of experience both. Now, a lot of people say, I'm like, just from talking to him and the body language, you can say he wants to be on the field. So that to me is like they're saying, no, go up and try that. It's like, if you don't have confidence to let the guy do what he wants to do, why are you hiring him?
So you got the vibe that that's not coming from Sean.
No, I totally get that vibe.
That to me is. I don't have a problem if he wants to call her from there, but if he doesn't want to do it, and there,
guys,
yeah.
I mean, it's rare now, but guys do it. Defensive guys, Big does it. Offensive guys, I'm trying to think. Brady did it. He can't do it now. Joe Brady. So it's not unheard of, but I'm Sean had expressed before when we talked to him early. He was like, "Well, I'm a former quarterback. I'm used to it on the field. I want to be on." He basically said, "I want to be on the field." He knows how important that communication is in the moment. And that's a lot different than defense because, you want to be hands-on with the quarterback.
I mean, he's talked about that. He's literally talked about it several times.
So I'm like, why? I don't. And again, they have more call up here. Like they're doing things because they know they hired a guy with no experience. And I'm like, isn't that a red flag? When you're creating ways to get the guy you hired ready because he's not prepared from an experience standpoint. Am I the only one who thinks that's a potential red flag?
No, that's a red flag.
They have more call-up periods for Sean. Think about that.
Yeah, they're focused on that instead of the overall the big picture of the team, the big picture of the offense, which should be paramount, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So
well, what's your thought on Jalen Hurts in this setup? This current setup. Is it an environment that's built for him to have success?
Well, no, I've never thought that. I mean, but they're going to do more pistol and gun than I think people realize to sort of meld it together a little bit. And maybe the pistol is the give and take because in the pistol, you're lined up a little closer to the center and the back is behind you generally. So, you still have that ability to give Saquon more options in the pistol. Similar to under center, whereas in the gun, you're far enough back where it has to be offset. And that basically limits and tips off the defense when it comes to the running game. But, helps the quarterback who doesn't have to turn his back to the defense and yada, yada, yada. I mean, I look, and I always default to Greg Cosell because he said it better than me, so I'll give him credit. I'm not saying he can't do it, but he's never done it before. So why at this stage of his career, and again, I'm going back to college, so that's a pretty extensive sample size. Why after 10 years, a decade basically, where he's played the position a certain way, you want him to play it a different way? Just at its core, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I've said that from day one. I would rather take advantage of what he does well. Now, there's a lot of things that can overcome that overwhelm that. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's pulling the Donovan McNabb. I don't want to run anymore. I don't think he is, but there are things that can factor into that. where you have to change, and it's probably not going to work. But if it's just they decided that by hook or by crook, hey, you got to do this because we like this scheme, which is 2 years behind the scheme they think they like. Minimum. That's poor decision making.
Is the talent around him good enough at receiver and tight end?
Well,
they got
Dallas.
Johnny Munt not
I
playing
mean, Dallas.
preseason.
Dallas is good. Devontae's good. So after that, no, probably not. But I mean, you got to stay healthy. But their top guys are still good. But they, if you don't have Dallas Goedert, the fact that Johnny Munt is a deference player, and that's what I call guys.
That's what I mean. That's crazy to me.
That's insanity. Don't often criticize Howie for roster construction, but the depth doesn't look great. Not nearly what it has been. Like, I think it's comical that people think, insert name. I don't want to pick on one of them. So I think it's comical that people think Hollywood Brown or Darius Cooper or Elijah Moore, and even throw in Johnny Wilson, are as good as football players as John Dodson. Oh, they got more. They're all better. You got to be flipping kidding me. But they just didn't use him.
Yeah, but do we have a little revisionist history on him? I mean, he was a first-round pick, John, that got traded away 2 years into his contract to a division rival for peanuts.
Well, I don't even think he should have been a first-round pick.
But I'm just saying, it's not like he.
No, I'm not saying he's great. I'm saying he's better than those guys. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm saying he's at best a third receiver in the NFL. I'm just saying he's better than all those guys. That's all. I'm not saying he's a great player, but I think because they didn't utilize the third receiver, and that's not his fault. They played a different style of offense. But I'm just talking, people bought into the hype of certain players, and it's like Hollywood Brown has not been good. He showed some life in practice yesterday for the first time in a while. Darius Cooper's a great story, but he's a fifth receiver in the NFL. Johnny Wilson is a gimmick guy. He's a blocker. And Elijah Moore is a little bit of a gimmick manufacturer touch guy who's not, So I'm not in love with the depth there. The tight end depth is even worse. Like, I think Eli Stowers might turn into a good player, but early, like, you're going to have a difficult time getting him on the field. Grant Calcaterra, God bless him, good dude. I mean, too one-dimensional, and it gives everything away. That's their problem at tight end. They got a bunch of one-dimensional guys. The one guy besides in the back end, that EJ Jenkins has the potential to do both, but he just can't catch the football consistently.
Well, we're going to need this offensive line to have a great year then, John. And Jalen Hurts going to have to step up, trying to, make plays. And Saquon Barkley, as you said, it's going to have to be a big Saquon. You were joking, wrap him in bubble wrap, because if anything happens to him, it's not going to be good.
Well, on the offensive line, it's great when they're all out there, but I don't know how realistic that might be to get all 5 of those guys through 17 games plus the playoffs. Some good signs from Bell and Lampkin, as we said, Drew Kendall as well, but they're all unproven. They'll probably keep Micah Morris, but you don't want him playing. Jake Majors got exposed. John Ajoku's okay. He can probably play, but he's going to have a tough time making the team. Could probably play as a Band-Aid. And Fred can play as a Band-Aid. But not great depth on the offensive line. Some upside, but not great depth in the immediate. So if guys were to go down early, you're probably be in some trouble. So I would say overall the depth is a concern on the offensive side. And you might see some roster juggling, whether it's, getting to 53 and picking up people on waivers, try to get a little bit better on the back end. You might see more of that this year.
This is a depressing show today, John.
Well, people have been spoiled by a good team for a long time. It's cyclical. Guys age out. It's hard to replace them. The Eagles have done a better job than most. Defensive tackle. You're going to see Milton Williams. All of a sudden, Ty Robinson is showing some life. People giving up on Ty Robinson. Now Ed Kratz is right in the bottom. Everybody's like Ty. Boy, man. He's going to be great. I warned them, and then I said, he's done. Throw him in the trash can. I go, he's not done. Showing some life. He's not going anywhere. But I mean, the defensive tackle I brought up, to have Milton Williams and then Moro Ojomo, and you're probably going to lose Moro Ojomo. I don't know if that Ty's going to fill that void, but it wouldn't surprise me if he turned into a good rotational player. Trotter's a tremendous backup. And Michael Carter's a tremendous backup to the point he should be a starter, but I digress. So I think they have some really good depth on defense. Edge, too, with Ebiketie and Epinesa. Much better than it has been. So there's some positive, but you got to go on the defensive side. A lot of positive on the defensive side.
What's your expectation for Jalen Hurts this year?
I think it's going to be a tough year. I mean, he's swimming upstream. And I don't think a lot of it's going to be his fault. I think they put him in a bad situation with an inexperienced play caller. And he's got less talent than he's had. I think it's going to be a difficult struggle. That's why, his best friend is got to take up golf and start golfing with Saquon constantly. His best friend is going to be Saquon.
Well, they've created an environment where the quarterback swims upstream and they're supposed to have a good year. That doesn't go together to me.
Well,
I'm more optimistic than you are that Jalen can run this successfully, but some of the shit you explain is hard to look at.
Well, I mean, he could run it successfully and still be swimming upstream because of the you're a couple injuries away from throwing out players that were just playing in Baltimore. And, even Wicks, who I think has had a good camp. I mean, Mekhi Lemon's got to get the hell out there. His career high is 39 receptions. Dontavian Wicks. I mean, you start rolling into teams with Christian Gonzalez. You start rolling into teams like Seattle. Some of the teams with great defenses. I don't think Dontavian Wicks is going to go win one-on-one against some of those teams. Like somebody could do. So I think it's going to be more difficult from a personnel perspective. And maybe they can get Eli Stowers involved, and maybe.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Maybe
not year one. You got it. Well, I think Eli Stowers is going to be future. I mean, he didn't look very good versus.
Well, it would have to be in small packages, but get him involved as a receiver.
Does he look like he gives a big enough advantage even in that area? I mean, playing
versus not yet. I mean,
it's not the same as preseason.
By the way, Darius Smith signed with the Falcons.
I saw that. Didn't he? I thought he retired.
He did.
Didn't he leave here saying he was retiring?
Yeah, he did retire. Came back. Happens all the time.
Yeah,
probably
he just wanted to get the hell out of Philly.
No, I think he was having some family things. Real life gets in the way. People don't. I mean, it's not like people have lives, and he's got like 5 kids. There were some issues going on. He still got juice, and now he wants to come back. I don't think it had anything to do with Philly. He seemed to be happy here. He was playing well, but sometimes real life gets in the way.
Fair enough. All right, we got a couple super chats we'll get to. Here's Brando Shreds. What's up, Brando? He says this. I was at the Chip Kelly debut. Thankfully, they scored enough early to hold them off, but Washington figured out how to stop that offense by the second half. It's always players, not plays.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Nobody listens, though. I'm glad Brando listened. Players over plays. Always, 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 always. Always.
I didn't think I'd end Birds 365 today, going into a state of depression. Brando, thank you, brother.
By the way, that's a good thing for the Eagles. The Eagles still have a very talented roster. It's top heavy, but a very talented roster. And it is players over plays. And that's why they have such a high floor. And that's why I said you could have Xander running the offense, and they're still going to be competent because they have so many good players. That's the cheat code that they have. They have more talent than most teams. Not all. There's clearly better teams now, and there hasn't been. The Rams, obviously, probably the Seahawks. So I mean, there are teams that are now have more talent, I would say, but not a lot. I would put the Eagles in the top 5, and it is more top heavy than you would like. The depth isn't quite what it once was. But they still got a lot of good players on offense who weren't playing in Baltimore. And they will put lipstick on whatever to be competent enough to play well in stretches. Even last year, which people think was the worst, and they played well for stretches. They were lights out. That the weird game against Tampa where they were lights out in the first half and then couldn't complete a pass in the second half, I believe. And the Rams, the prior was lights out in the second half couldn't do anything in the first half and went nuts in the second half. The red zone, people forget how good they were in the red zone last year. Because they had a lot of good players. So that's a positive that it is players over plays.
Good stuff. I appreciate it, Brando. Thanks for the super chat. And here's John checks in again. Cole Young turned shit into chicken soup.
Not stopping on the stick.
I like Cole Payton.
But last 5 minutes of a preseason game, all reps are not
You don't think Cole
created
Payton can be a
equal.
decent backup in the NFL?
Not unless he can start processing. He could be Taysom Hill, like
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
He got a long way to go in the processing category. I mean, from watching him in practice, he's got in his mind where the ball's going and it's coming out. Whether there's triple coverage, it's coming out. So, I mean, he's very inexperienced. He only played 1 year in college. And he's a great athlete. And you saw the scripted nature, the unscripted nature of what he did against Baltimore, which was better than, again, another example, players over plays. Sure, a hell of a lot better than the shit they were running. Just let them run around and play sandlot football. Two for two, players over plays.
Yeah. Here's JD3GPT. I agree, J-Mac. Even if Nick was forced to change schemes, it doesn't make sense to hire another rookie OC, especially in a new scheme. I would want someone who's installed the scheme before.
Yeah, well, they tried. I mean, that's what
Nobody
they were
wanted to
going
come,
for.
dude. Yeah, can't leave that out.
Yeah. But I mean, they could have hired Josh Grizzard, who's got not a ton of experience, but some experience.
They did hire him, right? It's just not the OC.
Well, yeah, they did hire him. They could have hired him to the OC, is what I meant. So they like Sean. Once they couldn't get McDaniel or Dayball, they kind of rebooted the search, and then they just went with the guy they liked, and they like Sean. And he might be,
Did Nick like Sean, or did the front office like Sean?
No, Nick hires the coaches. I've tried to explain that a million times, but now he also knows there's a political aspect to it.
Did Nick hire Vic Fangio?
Yeah. Oh, everybody. Well, first of all, everybody was on board with Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
Vic was a consultant for Super Bowl 56. He was already here. He was already people misunderstood that. There was a report that he was a consultant. He wasn't an official consultant until 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, but he was sort of like, as I like to call it, a friend of the program because he's local. He wanted to be local. And he was, at training camp a couple times, just checking things out. And, that consultant, see the whole thing with Gannon. God, I'm going down this wormhole. So when Gannon left the field, he did that interview with John Clark, I believe, saying he'd be back because he was out of the Houston job. Yeah. And at the time, Arizona had not contacted him yet because they hired their GM, who's friends with Jonathan, very late in the process. So at the time he said that, he was telling the truth. He was going to be back. And then, obviously, Monty Ossenfort contacted him and said, hey, would you be interested? And, of course, he wants to be a head coach. So he said yes. And by that time, Vic is already down the road with the Dolphins. And Vic is a loyal guy, even though he'd rather have this job. He agreed to become the defensive coordinator of the Dolphins. He wasn't going to back out on that. And the timing just didn't work out. Ossenfort did it the wrong way because you're not allowed to contact people until after the Super Bowl, and he did it before. If you hadn't had a prior interview, and he didn't have a prior interview with Arizona because Monty had not gotten the job yet, so it was just logistics. So anyway, long story short, the timing didn't work out. Vic went to Miami, and the Eagles had to suffer through Sean Desai and Matt Patricia, who Sean was a big disciple. And then a bunch of players were angry that Vic was a little too hard on them in Miami, some of the defensive backs. And he said, I'd rather go to Philly anyway. And the Eagles finally got him. But everybody was on board with Vic. Everybody. So, I mean, it's kind of like, but I mean, Nick hires the coaches. Nick hires the coaches. I know people don't believe that. He hires the coaches. I don't know what to tell him. Even, when Vic was asked about Chris Cooper, because Vic had Chris Cooper in Denver, and I was told that Vic recommended him here. So I asked him, I said, what was your, what did you think of Chris Cooper? What does he bring the staff? I framed it like that. And Vic actually went and he said, yeah, I didn't. He said he didn't get involved late when people figured out he was on my staff, and he was in the facility, and Nick was interviewing like 20 guys. He's doing this extemporaneously, and he's saying, and Nick was interviewing like 20 guys, and they pulled me in and asked me about Chris Cooper. Like, why is it? What do you think? Vic Fangio's lying extemporaneously off the top of his head when he's in the building and saying Nick's in there like interviewing 20 guys. Nick, not Howie, not Jeffrey. Nick hires the fucking coaches.
He's got to get approval, I'm sure, but that's normal.
Well, with the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach, quarterback, the owner's always got a red stamp.
That's basically
that's
NFL wide, right?
Yeah. I mean, so yes, if you want to go that far, but then you're just playing a semantics game. He hires the coaches. Sorry to break that narrative.
Here's Dan. What's up, Dan? Dan says, sounds like 9 wins would be a huge accomplishment after listening this morning. Come on, defense. John, you're breaking the spirits of Birds 365.
Well, I got about but people only listen to what they want to hear. Players over plays. I got them at 11 wins. They still got a talented roster, but it's probably going to be similar to last year in that there's going to be some ugly moments getting to those 11 wins. Still gifted team, high floor. High floor. They're not gonna be below 500. There'd have to be a lot of injuries. You'd have to be playing Andy Dalton for 13, 14 games, or have multiple people out on the offensive line, or multiple people out on defense. Still a really talented team.
All right, good stuff, John. We'll keep rolling here now.